Under the guise of convenience, tradition is forgotten, an undeniable truth. Heavy, brick-like phones evolved into sleek smartphones, just as rugged steam trains gave way to the high-speed KTX. Great things of the past inevitably become obsolete and fade away. Indeed, this cycle of replacing the old with the efficient is simply the obvious way of the world. The 21st century. Magic has made revolutionary advancements. Of course, there are no students here who don't know that, right? In the high-tech classroom filled with holographic screens. The instructor pointed to the digital board. He declared a truth as clear as the glowing formula. Magic is the same. Come on, instructor. Everyone knows that. Ignoring the groans, the teacher highlighted AI as the turning point of sorcery. The screen displayed the shift. The tedious 8-step formula of the past was now obsolete. Thanks to AI optimization, everything was compressed into just two simple stages: collection and manifestation. Using magic in this complex order was common sense a century ago, the instructor noted, pointing to the crossed-out 8-step web. Now, thanks to AI, it's just collection and manifestation. The tedious formulas were handled automatically. He smiled, presenting the simple diagram. How is it? Isn't it convenient? Only 1% of the population can become mages. The classroom buzzed with the laughter of the blessed, their faces lit by the blue glow of AI screens. Amidst them, Shinhale sat in isolation, staring down at a simple paper notebook. He was once counted among those elites, but now, sitting in the shadows of his own genius, that glory felt like a distant memory. Shinhale is so pitiful. The jeers pierced him from all sides. The once praised prodigy was now a joke, mocked for being in the cursed 0.0002% incompatible with AI. Peers looked on with superior sneers. At least I'm better than him. Hale forced a broken smile. Through his tears, his fist trembling in silent indignation. 0.0002%. The number burned into his mind. Hale's fist clenched the desk, trembling with suppressed rage. In an era where AI defined power, he was the anomaly. He had to accept the cruel reality. He belonged to that cursed, minuscule fraction of people, the incompatible ones whom modern magic had abandoned. Once hailed as a prodigy, young Hale basked in adoration. But his bright future shattered with a scream of agony. Ah, my head! The pain signaled his fall. Warmth turned to ice as his father turned his back, scoffing. Why did you think you could aim for the family head? Left alone in the cold shadow of disappointment, a torrent of negative thoughts drowned Hale in despair. The holographic countdown 10 signaled the start. The instructor checked his tablet, his voice devoid of emotion. Second year, Shinhale, I'll start the practical exercise. Pushing aside the lingering mockery, Hale took a breath to steady his racing heart. His eyes gleamed with intense focus as he faced the target. Yes, it was time to prove them wrong. Ha ha! Sweat dripped as Hale forced his mana into shape. Concentrate, collection heating. He grit his teeth, navigating the arduous 8-step formula without AI assistance. The magic circle sputtered and crackled ominously in his trembling hands. Above him, the timer mercilessly ticked down 5, for highlighting the agonizing slowness of his struggle against modern standards. Alone in the dim dawn, Hale faced the glowing verdict. The feedback was brutal, 27 times slower than freshmen, like a broken faucet. It felt like an iron club of facts smashing his skull. But the final blow was the recommendation to find another path. His hands trembled as that sentence dug straight into his heart. The room felt suffocating tonight, the darkness pressing down on Shinhale's slumped figure. The silence was shattered by his father's voice, cold and unforgiving. "Stop bringing shame to the family and come back." There was no sanctuary left. His hand trembled as he gripped the phone tight. Even his own home, the place that should have been his support, was relentlessly demanding he surrender his dreams. I didn't stagnate. The realization pierced the gloom. Hale rose, his eyes burning with renewed purpose amidst the piles of ancient texts. The world called him a failure, but he refused to yield. "I will definitely become a Mudge." He reached out, his hand resting firmly on a worn leather cover. It was time to turn the page. Let's start again with a new feeling. This book, a crimson hardcover, caught his eye. Raphael Beitner, the first Archmage. Perplexed, Hale held it up. He didn't remember buying such a treasure. Suddenly, the ancient leather erupted in a blinding golden glow. Washing over his stunned face, a voice resonated from within the light, greeting him like an old friend. "Long time no see." As Hale opened the tome, a blinding light erupted. Agony pierced his skull, a sensation like a dagger carving into his brain. Through the radiance, a majestic voice resonated within his mind. The first Archmage, Raphael Beitner, descended with a revelation. "To my successor who shares my constitution, I leave this book to you." The moment stretched, overwhelming Shin Hale's senses. The panel zoomed in on his face, revealing eyes wide with utter shock and panic, sweat trailing down his temples, a visual representation of cognitive collapse. His internal monologue confirmed the impossible. In that instant, my brain stopped working. What he had just heard was the legendary name, echoing in bold certainty: Raphael Beitner. The realization was paralyzing. Shin Hale desperately tried to regain his composure, reining in the initial shock. He settled down, clutching the thick, ancient book, and lightly tapped his temple. Forcing himself to analyze the situation with a cool head, he concluded internally that, viewed rationally, this had to be an elaborate hoax or prank. Why would the great hero Raphael Beitner leave such a book, especially one designated for a successor who shares his constitution? The claim was too absurd a fabrication that completely crossed the line of believability. Shin Hale exploded, violently throwing the book down. He screamed, "What a load of bullshit!" His eyes flared at the insane demand. "Destroy mana circles, circulate mana, and my brain. You want me to die? How much must they hate him to pull this prank?" During the first practical lesson of the semester, an instructor called out, "Next, Ji-Sun-chan, enter." The neon blue light and high-tech interface of the training arena framed Ji-Sun-chan, who stepped forward confidently in his combat suit. Instantly, exclamations erupted from the surrounding audience. Students clapped enthusiastically. "Oh, Ji-Sun-chan, great job!" They cheered, one student shouting with fervent excitement, "He's the hope of us regular admission students." Ji-Sun-chan dashed, combining double casting with movement to fell the giant rats with fire and barriers. The screen flashed AI-assisted success for a modern mage aided by AI. Such high-level technique was only natural. The large screen displayed Sun-chan effortlessly destroying monsters with fire magic via AI support. For modern mages, moving while double casting was a given. Sitting in the stands, Shin Hale watched with a cold gaze, thinking, "It's nothing special, just only natural." "Next up, Shin Hale," the speaker announced. He walked out amidst mockery. Is he actually trying? He'll fail instantly, ignoring the familiar sympathetic gazes. Hale stepped steadily toward the gate. Now was not the time to react to them. Shin Hale panted, firing a bolt to fell the rat. Sweat ran down his gritty face. Despite the exhaustion, he found solace in his results. 3 months ago, 6. Today, 17. I am definitely improving. For him, that was enough. Hale staggered, his body trembling as the simulation ended. It's over, he panted. The system displayed a harsh reality. Rank D, 17 kills. Yet, collapsing onto the bench, he didn't despair. He checked his device, sweat dripping from his face. I gave it my all. 3 months ago, he could only manage 6. Today, 17. In the quiet room, he found resolve. I am definitely improving. And that's enough for me. For now. Then I'm going to get going, Sunchin announced, rising from the bed. But his departure halted as he noticed something near his feet. What's this book? His curiosity piqued. He focused on the ornate tome, Reveil Beitner. Hale stiffened. Oh, that's the book that I had flung away. He watched nervously as his friend inspected the object of his earlier rage, the very book he had deemed a cruel prank. Hale quickly dismissed the item. Nah, it's nothing. Just forget about it. But Sunchin's curiosity was piqued. Give me a second. I just want to take a look on the inside, he insisted, ignoring the protest. He attempted to flip the cover, but the book refused to yield. Sunchin's face flushed red, veins bulging on his hands as he strained against an invisible force. HMPH, what the hell is this? He grunted, bafflingly stuck. Why won't it open? Sunchin's face flushed crimson as he wrestled with the tome, veins bulging on his hands. Did someone superglue every page together? He gasped, baffled by the seamless seal. Seeing his friend's futile struggle, Hale stepped in, placing a hand on his shoulder. Sunchin, let me see it. Exhausted, Sunchin relented, panting, ugh. It's impossible. As Hale took the heavy volume, Sunchin warned, careful, it's like a brick. Hale gripped the cover, his expression serious. I'll try. To Sunchin's shock, the book yielded instantly, in Hale's hands. It opened smoothly. Hale murmured. What? Did you add a security device? Sunchin stammered, baffled. But Hale was already lost in the text. This book is made so that it can only be opened by those who have the same constitution as I. The words, previously dismissed as a prank, now carried a terrifying weight. Sweat beaded on his brow as the truth sank in. No way. Is this for real? Hale flipped the pages, light bathing his face as he read the promise he had once scoffed at. If you do this, then you will be able to become the best archnage in the world. His eyes widened, pupils trembling as the truth cemented itself. The dangerous instructions weren't madness, they were a legacy meant solely for him. Hale, what does it say? Sunchin asked, concerned by his friend's frozen state. Hale stared into the void, terror mixing with hope. It's Greel. The best archnage in the world, the words echoed in Hale's mind, drowning out reality. Sweat trickled down his face as the weight of destiny settled upon him. Clench. His hands tightened around the ancient pages, and in response, a soft, ethereal glow emanated from the text, finally acknowledging its master. The doubt vanished. He turned to his worried friend, his eyes burning with a new resolve. It's real. This is my path. Sunchin stepped back, unsettled. Hale, what are you talking about? You're scaring me. Please be quiet, the professor commanded, activating a glowing magic circle over the mysterious tome. WONNGG. After the scan, he pushed the book away dismissively. It's just nonsense. I assure you, no magic measures were used on this book. Hale lowered his head, clutching the object as his heart raced, sweat beading on his cheek. To the expert, it was a fake. But for him, this was the answer that I had hoped and hoped for in my mind. It meant the book was beyond their detection. Hale buried himself in the library, obsessively gathering data on Baitana. He read a thesis claiming the hero's magic shattered the sky, though modern scholars dismissed it as mythical fiction due to the clear limits of the past. Shut, slamming the book, Hale rejected the consensus. Science claimed that human brain couldn't process enough to surpass those limits. But as sweat trickled down his flushed face, a dangerous thought took root. But what if the legends were real? Textbooks warn that mana overloads the human brain, leading to madness or death. Yet, Hale recalled a doctor's past diagnosis. His brain uniquely rejects all external interference, making AI integration impossible. A shocking hypothesis formed, causing sweat to bead on his face. If this defect was actually the exceptional brain Beitner described, perhaps he wasn't just incompatible with AI. Maybe his brain was completely immune to the poison known as mana. Hale clutched his chest, heart pounding with a volatile mix of terror and exhilaration. The stats were grim, barely over 10% success rate, with failure meaning death or losing his magic. The thought made his limbs tremble, yet, gripping the tome, his eyes hardened with desperate resolve. 10%, he decided. It's enough of a probability to risk. My already ruined life. Hale closed his eyes, recalling Sartre. Life is the choice between birth and death. The words haunted him, making retreat impossible. Could he ever accept a normal life now? His gaze sharpened, sweat dripping as he clenched his fist. To back out would be to deny his very existence. Clutching the tome, he solidified his resolve. A 10% chance was enough to gamble his already ruined life. Tonight, I will destroy the mana circle. Hale held the pill, the fruit of disappointment sent by his family. A bitter memory flashed back, his younger self sobbing over this very package. He never imagined he'd actually use it. But staring at the capsule, his gaze hardened. There was no turning back. It's too late for hesitation. Gulp. He swallowed the pill, shattering his past to forge a new future. Thump, thump. The pill took effect, sending violent tremors through his body. Hale clutched his chest, groaning, "It hurts." But this wasn't ordinary pain. His eyes widened in shock, veins popping as he realized the sensation wasn't his heart tearing, but his very mind being shredded. A crushing sense of despondency overwhelmed him, a feeling of absolute loss, as if his 18 years of existence were abruptly coming to an end. The agony in his heart subsided, replaced by the sound of destruction. WHAM. On his chest, the 3 mana circles his life's work shattered, dissolving back into raw energy. Hale trembled, sweat dripping as he bit his lip until it nearly bled. He refused to weep over what was lost. Slamming his fist into the mattress, he steeled his resolve. Now is not the time to cry, he vowed. I will save my tears for the joy of success later. Even without the circles, the mana obeyed his will. Hale sat cross-legged, guiding the glowing remnants of his destroyed power through his body. Then, he committed the ultimate taboo. Ignoring the evaporation of sweat on his feverish skin, he forced the energy into his central nervous system directly into his brain. His eyes glowed with dangerous light. Gritting his teeth against the terror of brain death, he braced for the impact. What? Hale gasped, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. Instead of the expected agony, a wave of pure, cool refreshment washed over him. It was like drifting weightlessly in a forest river beneath a summer sun. A single tear of absolute relief traced his cheek as a peaceful smile formed. Ha! Amidst the serenity, he heard the impossible, the innocent laughter of children echoing in his soul. It feels good. Hale sat up, sobbing as every shred of worry washed away from his mind. He stared at his trembling hands, now wreathed in a soft, golden glow. Tears flowed uncontrollably, not from pain, but from a profound liberation. Were these tears of relief? He wondered, a gentle smile breaking through the continuous stream. No, they're a little different. It was the pure, overwhelming ecstasy of a new beginning. Hale realized his survival was the ultimate testament, proof that Reveille Beitner's biography was true. Tears of joy streamed down his face unbidden, as the realization washed over him. He reached out to the glowing tome on the nightstand. Opening it, he gasped. The void that had plagued the book from page 3 onwards was gone. In its place, the pages were now filled to the brim with that familiar, messy handwriting, waiting to be read. Golden light erupted from the pages, revealing the words he longed to hear. Congratulations, my successor. No, my disciple from this moment on. Hale stared, tears streaming down his smiling face. Could it be an illusion? He whispered, trembling with joy, but the warmth was real. In that instant, the frozen clock of his life finally began to tick once more. No way, this is real. Hale wept, a brilliant smile breaking through his tears as the impossible truth settled in. Sitting amidst towers of forgotten books, the tome glowed in his hands, promising a destiny he had only dreamed of, the world's greatest archmage. He stood up, fists clenched, his spirit no longer broken but forged anew. This is my path, my one and only chance. His eyes burned with conviction. And I'm taking it. A confident smirk played on Hale's lips, his golden eyes shining with newfound purpose. He recalled the axiom, he who does not challenge cannot gain anything. Standing amidst the dusty towers of books that once symbolized his struggle, he made his move. I'm going, he announced to the silence, walking towards the door with unwavering steps. To my room. The real training was about to begin. In the dim, cluttered room, he sat alone beneath a warm desk lamp, countless books towering around him like silent witnesses. As he opened the ancient tome of Reveille Beitner, golden mana surged out, washing over his face, or widened his glowing eyes, and the forgotten script shimmered like living starlight. In that moment, he felt it high risk, high return. The heavens had finally answered him. Sitting on his narrow bed, he let the faint glow of mana circle him as he read the ancient text. The stages of general-purpose magic unfolded before his eyes, yet none of it truly belonged to him. A confident smile rose as golden light reflected in his gaze. He had found the path meant for himself alone. Each day felt exhilarating so much, so that even sleep seemed like a waste. During lunch break, he barely heard his friends' worried questions, too absorbed in the thrill of his newfound power. Mana flickered around him even as he ate, golden light sparking with every heartbeat. With a confident grin, he assured his friend he was fine, better than ever. The truth was simple. He wished each day had 48 hours, just so he could keep studying the magic that consumed him. As lunch ended, the boy leapt from his seat, golden rings of mana swirling around him as he waved goodbye. In the next instant, he shot down the hallway like a streak of light, each step bursting with energy he could barely contain. His eyes gleamed gold, reflecting the thrill racing through his veins. A bright smile clung stubbornly to his face, and one thought echoed in his mind: if only a day had 48 hours. In class, The strict professor lectured about how a mage's worth was bound to bloodline, his smug smile dripping with arrogance. Students whispered, some amused, others uneasy. Amid it all, the boy sat calmly, a faint golden aura circling behind him. When the professor finally turned his scorn toward him, he only smiled back unbothered, almost amused while the man seethed, desperate to wipe that confident look from his face. I'll give you a piece of advice, Instructor Len Smith smirked, his expression dripping with malice. Hale felt a spike of anxiety. New rules. The instructor's voice cut through the room like a blade. Students who fail to receive a passing mark will be expelled starting next year. Immediately. The classroom erupted in whispers. Everyone knew the truth. This wasn't just a rule, it was a targeted execution order from his father to remove him. I thought my father was unusually quiet. The realization struck Hale like lightning. This expulsion rule was his father's silent execution order, amidst whispers of his abandonment. Len Smith feigned reassurance, claiming only defective students would fail, but his eyes betrayed the lie. The instructor fixed Hale with a filthy, snake-like glare, silently declaring that he would never let him pass. Student Shin Hale, you should at least do what you can to speed up your magic casting, Len advised with a sneer. Hale bowed politely, masking his inner disdain. Yes, thank you for your advice. The calmness threw Len off. HM. The instructor frowned, sensing something amiss. But Hale's confidence was absolute. 15 days is enough, he vowed internally. I look forward to seeing that pleased expression become contorted with shock. HM, I must have misheard you. Len Smith faltered, sweat forming on his brow. Was he surprised by Hale's composure? 10 days ago, Hale might have begged for mercy. But not now. No, instructor, you heard right, Hale confirmed with a serene smile. He wasn't bluffing. 15 days is enough, he thought, envisioning the future. He eagerly awaited the moment Len Smith's smug face and even his father's would twist in utter embarrassment. On the 14th night, the time had come. The glowing tome revealed the ultimate secret. What you're going to create is a whole-body circulation mana circle. Hale realized his entire form was the vessel, not just his heart. Closing his eyes, he let go of everything breath, thought, and ego. Woon. He drifted into a deep trance, his consciousness dissolving as the mana began to weave a new, infinite power throughout his being. What you're going to create is a whole-body circulation mana circle. The ancient text guided him. Hale's eyes flashed with golden brilliance as he defied modern magic laws. He wasn't building a circle in his heart, his entire being was the conduit. Mana flowed in an endless loop, crossing from head to toe. In the void of his trance, the energy coalesced into a perfect Mobius strip infinity. The infinity circle had awakened. Hale drifted into a deep trance. I forgot to breathe. I forgot to think. His consciousness dissolved, leaving only the flow of power. Woon. The mana didn't gather in his heart. Instead, it enveloped him completely. My body itself is a circulation circle. Swirling endlessly in the shape of a Mobius strip, the energy obeyed his will. The foundation of Baitaner's magic, the infinity circle, had finally manifested. Mana surged from right leg to left arm, looping through his head in a perfect rhythm. It formed the shape of a Mobius strip, glowing with the power of infinity. Continuously. Never stopping. The energy revolved at a fixed, eternal speed, defying the laws of modern magic. Hale was no longer just a vessel, he was the flow itself. The foundation of the Beitner style, the infinity circle, had finally manifested. A blinding golden light pierced the darkness of the room. Hale sat serene in the center as the mana coalesced into a magnificent, glowing Nubius stripper on his entire being. It was a power that defied all modern logic, a testament to his unbreakable will. The ancient text's prophecy came true. The infinity circle began to appear on my body. The path to becoming the greatest archmage had truly begun. Is it morning? Hale awoke to sunlight and birdsong. Checking the time, April 15th, 2054, 7:42 a.m., he realized with a start, I've maintained the monocirculation for 10 hours. Usually, such exertion would cause him to faint from mental exhaustion. But instead, he felt incredibly refreshed, as if he'd had a perfect night's sleep. He immediately entered a meditative state to inspect his inner self, where the glowing infinity circle hummed with power. So this is the infinity circle. Hale observed the massive glowing loop encompassing his body, dwarfing the standard heart-paced circles. Yet, despite its size, the circulation was incredibly efficient, superior to anything modern magic offered. He turned to the book, where new text materialized, the first steps. Deliberation. Just reading that single word made his heart pound violently. As expected. The real journey was just beginning. I'm going insane. Hale muttered, clutching his head in a room plastered with frantic notes. Despite mastering the theory, the magic wouldn't activate. It felt just out of reach, blocked by the invisible wall of enlightenment. What could be the problem? He agonized, sweat trickling down his face. Why can't I do it? Gazing at the chaotic mountain of research, a sense of déjà vu struck him. Wait. This sight. I've seen it somewhere before. So this is the infinity circle. Hale marveled at the massive loop encompassing his body, dwarfing the standard heart-paced circles. Yet, despite its size, the circulation was incredibly efficient. He smiled, realizing the disparity. It's like running a track 10 times longer but finishing faster. It felt like possessing the engine of a luxury sports car, while the rest of the world rode electric scooters. The power was absolute. Hale turned to the glowing tome, where new text materialized as expected. The first steps of Baitanorian magic. Deliberation. Just reading that single word made his heart pound violently with anticipation. The core philosophy revealed itself. The symbol of Baitanorian magic is freedom. Think freely. That will be your strength. No equations, no algorithms. Just pure, unadulterated freedom. A smile graced his lips. The real journey was just beginning. I'm going insane. It's disgustingly difficult. Hale clutched his head in frustration, surrounded by a chaotic storm of notes. Despite mastering the theory, the magic wouldn't activate. Why can't I do it? He agonized, tearing at his hair. The book's teachings echoed mockingly. There is no set equation for magic. It's like how the human body doesn't do calculations to move arms and legs. The concept of absolute freedom was proving harder than any complex formula. Stepping away from the wall of obsession in his dorm, Hale faced the stark reality outside. With his family's support severed, the burden of survival from textbooks to daily meals rested solely on his shoulders. Under the bright, mocking blue sky, he smiled bitterly. Poverty is truly a sin. Clutching the meager cash that guaranteed his existence for another day, he acknowledged the cruel irony. The weather was perfect, yet he had to grind just to survive the present. Under a vibrantly blue sky that seemed almost too cheerful for his circumstances, Hale stepped out. A bitter smile played on his lips as he looked up. "The weather's good," he remarked softly. Yet, the tranquility was fleeting. The reality of his life was simple and cruel. To secure a meal for tomorrow, he had to grind through the labor of today. With the weight of survival on his back, he marched forward, finding a strange resolve in the struggle. Back in his dorm, frustration clawed at Hale's mind. He buried his face in his hands, feeling the answer taunting him just out of reach, the formidable wall of enlightenment. Despite his perfect theoretical understanding, the magic refused to activate. "Why can't I do it?" he questioned, lost in a maze of his own making. But as his gaze drifted to the wall plastered with countless chaotic notes, a sudden realization struck. This desperate scene, he had witnessed it somewhere before. Gazing at the chaotic mosaic of notes plastering his wall, Hale felt a wave of déjà vu. "What a sorry sight," he muttered. The desperation was all too familiar. Then the memory surfaced. Oh, it was a reflection of his 12-year-old self, back when he was still a prodigy, crushing under the weight of expectation. That day, sitting before his father with tears streaming down his face, marked his attempt to create a second circle and his first, unforgettable failure. The memory of his father's warm voice surfaced from the past, cutting through his frustration. "Perfection restricts you," he had told the weeping boy. "Sometimes it's best to just stupidly charge forward." The words clicked. Hale leaned back in his chair, the tension melting into a relaxed smile as realization dawned. He finally understood the trap he had fallen into. Perfection is a fictional word created by human arrogance. He had been chasing an illusion, letting go of the need to be perfect. He simply let his mind flow. "I took the long way round," Hale realized, leaning back. His master's only rule was to think freely. Closing his eyes, he dismantled the rigid formulas binding him. "Perfection is just arrogance," he mused. A resonant ding echoed in his clear mind. He embraced the mana not as a tool, but as his own body, an arm, a leg, a heartbeat. With a mere thought, foi, a brilliant flame blossomed in his palms. No equations needed, only his will. "I've taken the long way round," Hale realized, settling into a meditative pose. The glowing infinity circle manifested before him. The key was simply to think freely. He emptied his mind of rigid formulas. For a vibrant flame ignited in his palm, not through calculation, but pure will. He smiled, feeling the warmth of success, as ethereal flowers of light bloomed around him, marking his breakthrough. The truth of the ancient magic finally clicked. He had mastered the first step, deliberation. "No," Hale whispered, finally letting go of the rigid logic that had bound him. He surrendered to the flow of the infinity circle. There was no need for formulas, only will. Foi. In a split second, a vibrant flame danced in his palm. Instant casting. It felt as natural as breathing. As the fire's reflection danced in his eyes, now shimmering with a golden, arcane light, he realized the truth. The wall was gone. "I've succeeded. Oh, I almost missed the final key," Hale realized, bathed in the hum of the infinity circle. The essence of Baitner magic wasn't about tracing the complex path of monocirculation. It was far simpler. Don't calculate the flow. Just imagine the resulting phenomenon. He stopped the mental weaving and simply visualized the outcome. Instantly, reality bent to his will. For a crimson flame erupted in his right hand. Shine. A sphere of pure water formed in his left. Like this, no formulas, just freedom. Water. At his whispered command, a pristine sphere of liquid coalesced instantly above his palm. Hale gazed at the shimmering orb with a satisfied smile. Before, it took me almost 8 seconds of complex calculation just to manifest this, he reflected. But now, all I have to do is think. Sitting amidst his scattered notes, the infinity circle pulsing rhythmically around him, the truth of his new power solidified. This was deliberation. This was immediate casting. The water obeyed his every whim, twisting from a sharp spear into a taut bow with a fluid gulp. Hale's eyes gleamed with excitement. It changes shape according to my thoughts, he marveled. Next, a majestic lion constructed of pure mana prowled upon his bed. In the rigid world of modern magic, altering a spell post-manifestation was like rebuilding a car's frame after it left the factory physically impossible. Yet, here he was, effortlessly defying the laws of physics. That's amazing, Hale murmured, watching the water bird flutter round him. This feat violated all known magical laws. Modifying a spell post-cast was like attempting to swap a car's frame after it had already been assembled, physically impossible by modern standards. Yet, with the infinity circle, he was rewriting reality. Deciding not to overexert himself, he cancelled the spell. Poof! With a soft sound. The bird dissolved back into a harmless sphere of water in his palm. That's enough for now, he decided, satisfied with defying the impossible. That's amazing, Hale chirped, sticking his tongue out playfully as the magic vanished. Poof. The Bitenner's style was incredible, but it had a catch. It drained mental power rapidly by taxing the brain directly. That's enough for now. He stretched his arms wide, a confident smile on his lips. Despite the heavy cognitive load, he wasn't worried. With the infinity circle's reserves and steady practice, this weakness was just a temporary hurdle. He was finally moving forward. Standing before the towering obelisk training facility, Hale sighed at the glowing price tag, 800,000 won per hour. This place is ridiculously expensive, he muttered. A bitter smile touched his lips. Just 1 hour of training here would burn through his entire month's living budget. He glanced down at his wallet, holding a lonely 10,000 won bill and a few coins. Luxury was a privilege he couldn't afford. He turned away, seeking a place that matched his harsh reality. Leaving the gleaming main street behind, Hale ventured into the gloomy back alleys where the shadows lingered. It's much cheaper, though, he reasoned, suppressing a sigh. Even 200,000 won was a hefty sum for him right now. Still absurd, but affordable. He stopped before a rusty sign buzzing with red neon light. Mana Training Gym, Destiny. This worn-out facility, hidden away in the shadows, was the only stage he could afford to test his evolved magic. The staff member processed his entry efficiently. All right, can you go in? Need me to show the way? Yes, please. The mana scanner flashed, confirming the identity, Hale, Obelisk Academy. Even in this back alley gym, verification was strict. Hale followed the attendant down the corridor, the red lights of the door numbers glowing in the dim hallway. Finally, they arrived at his destination, room 14. It was the cheapest option, yet it would serve as the stage for his first real test. Fingertips dancing across the console, Hale locked in his choice. Beep. The screen flashed ominous red. Blood Razor Wolf, quantity, 10. V-mode confirmed. As the simulation loaded, 10 crimson projections encircled him in the darkness, their growls vibrating through the mana. This was the infamous Blood Wolf challenge. To clear it, he had to slaughter all 10 simultaneously without suffering a single scratch. It was the perfect stage to test his new limits. Darkness swallowed the room, broken only by the crimson glow of 10 pairs of eyes. The Blood Razor Wolves encircled him, forming a ring of red death. This was the challenge: defeat all 10 simultaneously without suffering a single scratch. In the past, the mere thought was laughable for a failure like him. He wouldn't have lasted a second. But now, standing in the center of the kill zone, Hale remained motionless. His heart beat steadily against the suffocating pressure. The test had begun. Hale lowered his stance, the ethereal arcs of the infinity circle swirling around him like a protective storm. 10 pairs of crimson eyes locked onto him, their murderous intent suffocating the air. In the past, this would have been suicide, but now, it was necessary. But there's no better way to test my power than this, he thought, his golden eyes shining with unwavering resolve amidst the darkness. With a deep breath, he unleashed his mana. Start training. Broom in hand, the part-timer stepped into room 14, expecting the usual post-training chaos. Instead, silence greeted him. The room was immaculate, without a speck of dust or debris. Obelisk Academy students are really tidy, he noted, impressed by the discipline of the elite. But as the mundane task ended, a specific detail from the log resurfaced in his memory, freezing him in place. Wait, was that just Chin Hale? The realization hit hard. That washed-up genius. Curiosity got the better of the part-timer. Instead of resetting the system immediately, he navigated to the user history database. Let's take a look. How far has the former genius fallen? He wondered aloud. The rumors of Hale's decline were legendary, and he wanted a front-row seat to the aftermath. With a cynical smirk, he accessed the logs. That washed-up genius. Let's see how much mana he wasted in there. He fully expected to see a disastrous attempt. Eager to validate the gossip with hard data, the smirk vanished instantly, replaced by cold sweat running down his face. The part-timer's eyes nearly bulged out of their sockets as the data loaded. He cleared the Blood Wolf challenge. No. The screen displayed the impossible in bright neon text, clear. This wasn't the record of a failure. Is this really the fallen genius? He stammered, his mind reeling. The results were flawless, shattering every rumor he had ever heard. The numbers didn't lie. But they made absolutely no sense. He cleared all the monsters. In just 6 minutes and 37 seconds. The part-timer's voice trembled, sweat beading on his forehead. He stared blankly at the glowing screen displaying the impossible time, 6:37. This wasn't just a good score. It was a record belonging to a 5-circle mage, the elite of the elite. How could someone incompatible with AI do something like this? His mind raced, unable to reconcile the rumors of the fallen genius with this monstrous performance. Oh, you crap machine! Unable to comprehend the monstrous record, the part-timer slammed his fist onto the console. Bop! It's glitching again, he grumbled, glaring at the screen. To him, the impossible time of 6:37 wasn't a miracle, but a nuisance. How many times this month? I need to call a technician. And just like that, the terrifying truth of Hale's power was dismissed as nothing more than a system error. Under the soft glow of the desk lamp, Hale meticulously reviewed the ancient tome, Reveil Beitner, for the umpteenth time. Every symbol, every interpretation of the archaic language had to be flawless. HMM. Nothing seems to be wrong. Satisfied, he gently closed the heavy leather cover, his hand lingering on the binding. Luckily, I don't think I missed anything. In the quiet of his room, the preparation was complete. There was no room for error in the upcoming battle for his future. His gaze locked onto the calendar, where a specific date burned in red ink, 30th of April, comprehensive midterm evaluation. It stood out amongst the sea of notes like a final verdict. This wasn't just an exam, it was the execution date his father had set for his expulsion. I haven't got all that much time left, Hale mused, his expression hardening. The deadline was tight, but panic was absent from his eyes. Instead, a cold, calculated determination took its place. He was ready to turn this crisis into his stage. The new expulsion rule wasn't a coincidence. It was a leash tightened by his own father. Even if I must use force, I will bring you back. Hale felt the suffocating weight of that iron will, a desperate ultimatum to force him into submission. Yet, as he stood in the silence of his room, his golden eyes burned not with fear, but with absolute certainty. The trap was set, but the hunter had underestimated the prey. Fail, impossible. The probability of him not passing was exactly 0%. The new expulsion rule wasn't a coincidence. It was a leash tightened by his own father. Even if I must use force, I will bring you back. Hale felt the suffocating weight of that iron will, a desperate ultimatum to force him into submission. Yet, as he stood in the silence of his room, his golden eyes burned not with fear, but with absolute certainty. The trap was set, but the hunter had underestimated the prey. Fail. Impossible. The probability of him not passing was exactly 0%. The next morning, the hallway was bathed in soft sunlight, contrasting with the storm brewing in Hale's life. Student Shin Hale. Instructor Ko Chang-soo's voice broke the silence. Hale straightened his posture, bowing respectfully. Good morning. The instructor offered a warm, yet purposeful smile. I was looking for you, so it's good meeting you here. Underneath the pleasantry, the wheels of fate were turning. A significant visitor was waiting. You were looking for me? Hale asked, bewildered. The instructor nodded gravely. That's right. I have a visitor for you. Hale's mind raced. As a prior, visitors were non-existent. For the instructor to fetch him personally meant the guest wielded immense influence. A heavy realization settled in his chest as a stern face surfaced in his memory. There was only one person it could be. Was it perhaps my father? The patriarch of the Magic Shin clan, Shin In-hyuk. Shin In-hyuk sat on the plush sofa, draped in a suffocating, dark violet aura that twisted the air round him. Well, it seems you're still alive and well. His voice was devoid of warmth, carrying the crushing pressure of an 8-circle medj. Hale stopped his approach, the sound of his step echoing in the silence. Meeting his father's sharp, judging glare, he didn't flinch. The air crackled with tension as the sun stood his ground against the patriarch who had abandoned him. I am not the same as before. Hale's declaration cut through the suffocating pressure of his father's dark aura. A brilliant azure light erupted around him, pushing back against the looming shadows. His eyes, glowing with the power of the infinity circle, held no trace of the fear that once haunted him. Clenching his fist, he stood tall, no longer a disappointment, but a midge ready to reclaim his destiny. Seated before the suffocating pressure of the patriarch, Hale remained unmoved. He clasped his hands, his posture radiating a calm yet absolute confidence that defied the room's tension. I am evaluating myself objectively, father, he stated, his voice steady. I will become the greatest archmage. His eyes, burning with azure mana, locked onto Shin In-hyuk's darkened gaze. This was no longer the plea of a cast-off son, but the undeniable declaration of a rising challenger. Snap out of it. Shin In-hyuk's patience finally shattered. Dark mana flared violently around him as he crushed the armrest, his voice thundering with frustration. Study magic, I? That is the only path for an incompatible one like you. Yet, Facing the explosive rage of an eight-circle match, Hale's azure gaze remained terrifyingly calm. He watched his father's trembling fist not with fear, but with a cold, silent resolve that rejected the destiny forced upon him. I refuse to be a cog in the family's machine. The words were spoken softly, yet they carried the weight of a thunderclap. Hale's eyes burned with an unwavering azure light, piercing through his father's intimidation. He was done being a tool to be used and discarded. I will stand on my own. It was a final declaration of independence. The obedient puppet was gone. Standing there was Image ready to forge his own legend. Sparks of Ramana collided in the air, a physical manifestation of their clashing wills. Prove it. How? By just passing a few subjects. In Hugh's voice dripped with skepticism, his fist trembling with suppressed rage. To him, barely surviving wasn't enough for a shin. But Hale's gaze didn't waver. Tightening his own fist, the son met the patriarch's glare not with excuses, but with a silent, burning promise of a result that would shatter all expectations. I will rank within the top 10 of the entire year. Hale's voice thundered as he slammed his fist down, blue mana crackling wildly around him. The sudden outburst stunned Shin and Hugh. The father's eyes widened, searching for a trace of hesitation in his son's gaze, but found none. This wasn't a bluff. It was a wager on his very existence. Hale was staking everything on the upcoming practical exam to prove his magic was far from dead. Top 10 for a failure like you. In Hugh scoffed, his gaze piercing. He laid down the ruthless ultimatum. Fine. If you fail, you must drop out and study A. It was a wager designed to crush him. Yet, Hale didn't flinch. Surrounded by crackling azure mana, his grip tightened, and his glowing eyes burned with silent acceptance. The deal was struck. There was no turning back, only victory or total erasure. Bathing in the blinding light of the window, Hale turned his back on the suffocating shadows. His voice rang out with finality, and if I succeed, prepare the best support for me. On April 30th, I will prove everything. It was no longer a plea, but a challenge. Beside him, a golden spear materialized, a beacon of his resolve. The die was cast. With those words, the high-stakes gamble of destiny began. Slipping into the classroom late, Hale took his seat amidst the hum of holographic displays. The instructor's lecture on magic algorithms merely washed over him. His mind was locked onto the high-stakes gamble he had just made. Good, the first step's been taken, he mused, a cold determination settling in his eyes. His father had accepted the challenge. Now, the countdown began. He had exactly 8 days to sharpen his blade and turn the impossible into reality. The test method is a one-on-one tournament. Instructor Ko's announcement silenced the room. While half the class despaired at the prospect of combat, a spark of anticipation lit up Hale's eyes. This was exactly what he needed, a direct confrontation where adaptation outweighed rigid formulas. Good, he calculated internally. The first step is taken. He had 8 days left. 8 days to refine his magic and turn this tournament into the stage for his resurrection. The classroom instantly fractured into two contrasting worlds. As the nature of the exam was revealed, a radiant burst of energy exploded from the confident. "Oh yeah, fights against humans." A student roared, fist pumping amidst a backdrop of celebration. Yet, a heavy gloom crushed the others. Shrouded in shadows of despair, they buried their faces in their hands. "I'm not too confident," a voice trembled. It was a stark dichotomy of eager predators and terrified prey. Marking the start of the ruthless tournament, The classroom air grew heavy with suffocation as the moment of truth arrived. Tension peaked when the instructor pointed to the massive holographic screen glowing with cold blue light. Then, I will reveal the all-important tournament bracket. As the complex diagram of fates unfolded, the room fell into a mix of shock and focused silence. Students stared intensely at their personal displays, sweat trickling down their faces as they realized who stood in their path. The cruel reality of the matches had been set in stone. A ripple of ominous murmurs spread through the room as the students realized the cruelty of the arrangement. The holographic screen blazed with the fateful announcement: Group H, Baek vs Shin-hae. To the onlookers, it looked like a death sentence. Yet, amidst the pitying gazes and shocked whispers, Shin-hae remained cold and unmoved. His sharp eyes didn't waver in the slightest. While the crowd saw a slaughter, he saw the perfect stage. The inevitable clash between the fallen genius and his tormentor had officially begun. The classroom buzzed with a suffocating mix of shock and pity. Holy crap, those two, a student gasped, while another shook her head, muttering, Shin-hae's luck's really bad. To them, he was a lamb led to slaughter against a predator. Yet, amidst the fearful whispers of the girls in the corner, Hale sat in stoic silence, hand resting thoughtfully on his chin. There was no fear in his eyes, only cold calculation. While the world mourned his misfortune, he realized this wasn't a tragedy, it was the perfect stage he had been waiting for. While the murmurs of pity filled the room, a chilling smirk curled onto Shin-hae's lips. To the world, this matchup was a tragedy, but to him it was a gift. Misfortune. No way, he mused internally, his eyes gleaming with a predatory light. I'm so lucky to get a chance like this. He clenched his fist, savoring the anticipation. The stage was finally set. The opponent who had tormented him was walking right into a trap, unaware that the prey was actually the hunter waiting to strike. A towering shadow swallowed the hallway light as Baek approached, his presence oozing malice. With a scarred face and the swagger of a predator, he sneered down at his seated target. Long time no see, huh? Defective product. The insult hung heavy in the air. Hale remained motionless, his expression half hidden in darkness. To an observer, he seemed passive, but the veins throbbing on his tightly clenched fist told a different story. It wasn't fear trembling, in his hand it was a restrained fury waiting for the perfect moment to explode. Baek loomed over him, his heavy hand clamping down on Hale's shoulder with possessive aggression. His scarred face twisted into a grotesque sneer as he closed the distance. You were hiding in your room to try and avoid me. And who's your opponent now? He mocked, savoring what he believed was Hale's fear. Yet, beneath that crushing grip, Hale remained eerily still. He didn't flinch, his cold gaze meeting the bully's manic eyes with an unsettling calmness that Sahyuk was too arrogant to notice. The air crackled with tension as Hale finally made his move. With a sharp, decisive smack, he swatted Baek heavy hand off his shoulder, rejecting the intimidation. His expression remained icy and unyielding as he met the bully's gaze head-on. Don't we have to? Wait and see who'll get beaten up in the end, he retorted coolly. It wasn't a question, but a challenge. The so-called defective product was biting back, his eyes burning with a quiet, dangerous confidence that signaled the tables were turning. Baek composure shattered completely, his face twisted into a demonic mask of pure hatred, veins bulging against his skin as he spat out his venom. Wake up, you defect. How long are you going to be obsessed over the glory that you can never obtain? His fist clenched, until the knuckles turned white, shaking violently with the urge to strike. He looked like a mad dog ready to bite. Yet, Beneath this torrent of murderous intent, Shin-hae remained stoic. He stared back not with fear, but with the cold, unyielding gaze of someone watching a pitiful clown perform. Shin-hae didn't flinch. A cold shadow cast over his face as he stared into Baek Se-hyuk's trembling pupils. His expression was devoid of fear, replaced by chilling disappointment. "You really haven't changed," Hale muttered, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. He looked at the bully not as a threat, but as trash. "You're still a lowlife that can only talk shit." It was a verbal slap that hit harder than any fist, stripping away Se-hyuk's arrogance. With a smirk that cut deeper than any blade, Hale delivered his final decree. "Once a genius, always a genius. I'll show you on April the 30th. Look forward to it, loser." He turned his back, leaving the hallway with the stride of a victor. Behind him, Baek Se-hyuk stood frozen, his body trembling with impotent rage. His bloodshot eyes nearly popped from their sockets, and his knuckles turned white as he watched his prey walk away, completely untouchable. The room erupted into a chaotic storm of violence. "That defective bastard!" Baek Se-hyuk roared, his sanity snapping like the wood beneath his bat. Crash, bang. Glass shattered and trophies flew as he rampaged. Unable to erase the humiliation of Hale's calm mockery, he punched the wall, his fist burying itself in the plaster. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the sting to his pride. Amidst the wreckage of broken awards and torn posters, his hatred only grew darker and more twisted. Standing amidst the debris of his tantrum, Baek Se-hyuk's eyes gleamed with a twisted inspiration. He dialed a number, his grin stretching into something predatory. "Publish some articles," he commanded, his voice dripping with malice. "Title it, 'The Return of the Genius.' Make him fall from the highest point." He wasn't just planning a defeat, he was orchestrating a public execution. As the plan took shape, his vile laughter echoed through the wreckage. Unaware that he was building the very stage his enemy desired, the campus erupted into chaos as azure holographic screens materialized above the academy, broadcasting a shocking declaration to the masses below. Korea's prodigious genius. Watch the brilliant resurrection, the unexpected news regarding the upcoming April 30th. Evaluation left the student body reeling. Disbelief washed over the crowd in waves of whispers and gasps. "Is this real?" they murmured, eyes glued to the floating displays. Unaware that this grand spectacle was merely the calculated prelude to a legendary duel. "Awesome!" The shout pierced the air as excitement rippled through the academy. Students huddled together, eyes glued to the flood of articles scrolling on their screens. "The comeback," they whispered, trying to process the sudden shift in Hale's demeanor. Yet, what solidified their belief wasn't just the text, but the silence. No refutation from the Magician clan. One student reasoned with wide eyes. It must be true, unaware they were pawns in a deeper game. The crowd accepted the silence as confirmation of the prodigy's return. Seated comfortably in a leather armchair, Shin-hae held the phone to his ear with a gaze as cold as ice. While the academy buzzed with speculation over the Magician clan's silence, the truth was far more calculated. "Don't refute those claims," he commanded, his voice devoid of hesitation. The students were merely dancing to his tune, unaware of the puppet master in their midst. The mastermind orchestrating the very rumors that shook the school was none other than Hale himself. Electricity crackled around Shin-hae's gaze, betraying the sheer intensity of his ambition. This wasn't just a duel, it was a stage he had meticulously set for himself. "I thought that in order to make the most out of my resurrection, I needed to get as much attention as possible," he declared, his voice steady with resolve. With the holographic screens broadcasting his return to the world, he was ready to turn the public's mockery into awe. He would reclaim his lost glory and clear his name, not in the shadows, but right before the eyes of a great audience. Electricity crackled around Shin Hail's gaze, betraying the sheer intensity of his ambition. This wasn't a trap, but a stage he had meticulously set for himself. I thought that in order to make the most out of my resurrection, I needed to get as much attention as possible, he declared, his voice steady with resolve. With holographic screens broadcasting his return to the world, he was ready to turn the public's mockery into awe. He would reclaim his lost glory and clear his name, not in the shadows, but right before the eyes of a great audience. The patriarch's grip tightened on the phone, his face etched with disdain. To Shin In-hyuk, the request was absurd. "I'm certain you will disgrace yourself," he declared coldly. In their world, a midge incompatible with AI was nothing but a broken tool. He saw no logic in indulging the delusions of a son destined to fail. Why should the prestigious Magic-Shin clan remain silent and risk further humiliation for a boy who had already lost his future? A brilliant blue aura erupted from Hale's body, mirroring the blazing ambition in his eyes. He didn't offer his father mere reputation, he offered a legacy. "The benefit is me," he declared, his grip tightening on the phone until it trembled. This was no idle boast, but a prophecy. He vowed to ascend as the greatest patriarch in history, securing the Magic-Shin clan's dominance at the peak of the world for the next century. Standing amidst the shadows of his office, the patriarch made his calculated decision. "All right. I won't deny it." He swiped the holographic screen, sealing their high-stakes pact. Yet, his voice carried a lethal edge, devoid of warmth. "But if you fail, prepare to pay the price for making a fool of us." This wasn't fatherly advice, it was a final warning to his ambitious son. The transaction was complete, but the cost of failure would be absolute ruin. The 3 days of waiting evaporated, ushering in the fated morning of April 30th. The Colosseum was a sea of humanity, packed to the rafters with spectators eager to witness the proclaimed miracle. Holographic screens loomed over the arena, casting a blue glow on the sand below. The air grew heavy with anticipation, the roar of the crowd serving as the perfect backdrop. This wasn't just a duel, it was the grand stage Hale had meticulously engineered for his return. Baek Se-hyuk strode into the arena, a snake-like grin plastered across his face. He reveled in the sea of spectators, mistaking their curiosity for his own triumph. "Whoa! A true genius. You're really famous," he sneered, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Spreading his arms wide as if to embrace the chaos he caused, he mocked Hale without mercy. "This crowd is here to see a defective product put on a show." Blinded by arrogance, he failed to see the trap closing round him. Se-hyuk's face twisted into a grotesque mask of arrogance as he leaned in, his voice dripping with venom. "It would be hilarious if you couldn't even use a decent spell, huh?" He taunted, relishing every cruel word. He didn't just want to win, he wanted to humiliate. "You cripple, abandoned by your family." To him, Hale was nothing but broken trash, unaware that his own hubris was blinding him to the predator standing right in front of him. Hale's smile wasn't one of fear, but of absolute control. He pointed a finger at his rival, breaking the tension with a question that cut deep. "Hey Se-hyuk, have you ever heard of someone being in the palm of another's hand?" Se-hyuk froze, his confident facade cracking as confusion set in. Hale gestured to the packed arena, his grin widening in triumph. "Thanks for publishing those articles for me for free." Se-hyuk had unknowingly built the stage for his own execution. The media descended like vultures, cameras flashing blindly. Student Shin Hail. A quick interview. They clamored, hungry for a scoop. But Baek Se-hyuk, realizing his carefully laid trap had backfired, finally snapped. His composure shattered under the weight of his own manipulation. "Get lost, you damn paparazzi!" he roared, shoving the floating microphones away. Veins bulged on his neck as he lashed out, unaware that his ugly outburst was exactly what Hale wanted the world to see. The arena fell silent as Hale raised a single finger, a faint blue ring materializing at its tip. "One circle," he announced with chilling calm. "I'll defeat Baek Se-hyuk using only one circle magic." The declaration hit like a thunderclap. Behind him, Se-hyuk's arrogance shattered into disbelief, his face twisting in shock, his sweat beaded on his forehead. The cripple wasn't just challenging him, he was looking down on him with absolute, terrifying certainty.